Hello everyone! Last week I didn't have time to make a video for you. The reason was that I ran out of water. I had to put everything aside and look after this new expected problem. I wasn't completely unprepared. I had suspected that water might run out. The summer was far too dry. Also, many other people had or still have problems with water. It feels like that can't be possible here in Switzerland, because we have high mountains with snow on the tops in summer, glaciers, rivers and lakes. But there are places in Switzerland that are far away from this water. Like my home, for example. I live in a hilly area where there are no glaciers and nothing else. I depend on the water sources and the rain. After I noticed that there was no water coming into the house, I walked up the hill and opened the reservoir. It was indeed empty. Only the ground of the reservoir was still covered by a thin layer of water. The water was really gone. I had already been living sparingly with water over the summer, but living completely without water was a new challenge. Do you know what you can no longer do that is a normally part of everyday life? For example, showering, washing clothes, washing hands, but also the toilet no longer works. I learned completely new things during these days without water. As I said, I was not unprepared. Over the last few months, I have bought water again and again and stored it in the cellar. Now I'm very happy about that. From collected rainwater and fountain water, I was able to flush the toilet. I couldn't take a shower. The fountain has become my new bathroom. I also washed my hair there. You have to know that you can't use normal shampoo in such situations, because it isn't good for nature. So if you wash your hair outside, you should never use soap or shampoos. I have therefore washed my hair with wholemeal rye flour, which is a completely natural remedy that doesn't harm the natural environment. The worst thing about it was that the water was so cold despite the summer. I have learned a completely new way of dealing with water. Every drop is precious. I wash the dishes in containers and then use the dirty water for the toilet. In everything I did, I used as little water as possible. And my garden? Yes, I soaked it with water from the manure pit. For me to have water at home, water must come from the wells. There are several sources of water, and they all flow into this shaft, which is up in the hill. From here the water flows a little way down the hill into the reservoir of the house. It is located in the forest above the house in the hill, and stores up to 6,000 liters of water. The animals have a separate reservoir and their own water source. I was very lucky that water still came from this source to provide for the animals. If the animals' reservoir had also been empty, I had a much bigger problem than if only me had no water. There was always a little water coming from the fountain, thanks to the good source of the animals. I measured the water in the reservoir, and I realized that there was enough water going in. So the problem was not directly the lack of rain, although that is certainly a reason for the low water. I also measured at the shafts. The water flows into the reservoir without any problems, but from the reservoir not into the house. The reservoir lost more water over time than was needed. There are two ways this can happen. Either a pipe between the reservoir and the house is broken and water goes lost, or the standpipe that holds the water back in the reservoir is leaking and water is running unnoticed into the fountain and away. Both are possible and I have yet to find out. I want to thank my parents here for their great support. They stood by me by the explorations of the sources and possible problems of the water shortage. Thank you for your help.